Okay, in this video, we're going to see the results of the heat treat. This has been heat treated at 450 degrees for about 3 hours. Okay, maybe 2 hours. It's not an exact science. As long as it stays hot at the desired temperature for 1 hour, scientifically speaking, it should have an effect. You don't need more than an hour. However, there are examples where you won't achieve the results you want unless you cook it longer at your desired temperature, up to 12 hours in some cases. Now, I don't have any desired effect other than making it easier to nap without it breaking in the heat treat. All right. Now, I don't just turn it up to 450 degrees and leave it there for 2 or 3 hours and then turn it off. There's a process, and you can, I think, see the process in a previous video that I discussed heat treat. I'm not going to discuss the process in this. I just mentioned the 450 degrees because someone will see this and say, what's that? Okay. Now, if you remember when I wrote that, I said sometimes these fade. Sometimes the temperature, if you write it on there with a Sharpie, the ink will fade. This didn't fade too much. It's still pretty good. Just so you know, like I've had batches where I write the temperature and I can't find the rock where I wrote the temperature that I wanted to heat it to. And you know, in the rush of day-to-day life, I forget what temperature it was at. And then I don't have it written down because I can't find the rock I wrote it down on because it faded. Maybe I did see it, or I'm able to see it still, but in the cursory glances that I use to examine my rock, if I'm in a hurry, I don't see the numbers anyway. That's just FYI. If you want to do it right, you mark as many pieces as you feel are necessary to make sure you have a number on it. And if when you store this, store it in a container or with numbers on the rocks so you know what temperature it was heated to. Okay, so everyone remembers the positions of these rocks in the last video, right? The quick and dirty spalling video recently. If you don't, go back and look at that video and then you can remember all the positions. So this one here, no damage, right? I think I should probably take a sample on each one of these that I take out. Well, on most of them. I'm not going to do all of them because there's many pieces in here. I'll just sample them when they're interesting pieces. This is an interesting piece because it can be made into a biface or a point. This is a little more glossy than the original surface, which is good. Next, I see no fire pops. If you don't know what a fire pop is, someone please tell them. Ask in the comment section and someone else please tell them what a fire pop is. This one has no fire pops and it naps easier, although you don't see a gloss. Dull and dull, but it naps much more easily. There is a slight color change, but it's very slight. So if you find an artifact made from this type of stone, you don't know if it's heat treated or not, except for maybe the slight color change and a slight better nappability. But you won't know that, so you'll probably say, ooh, it's a beautiful artifact made of the raw cruddy stuff and not the heat treated good stuff. And you would be wrong. All right. This is another example of really bad or tough. It's not bad rock, it's just very tough to nap in a raw state. Let's see if I can take a big flake this time. Excuse me if my voice is off a little bit. I've had a cold in the past few days. I also had to go out of town again on a little errand, so I was not able to do any shipping, videoing, or napping. Now, I seem to remember this being not so easy to nap, although this is starting to crush Let's see if I can run a long flake. If I can run a long flake, the heat treating is successful. I can run a long flake. And there is a difference in gloss, although not much. I can easily, relatively speaking, run a long flake, whereas before you might say that's a long flake. Yeah, that's a long flake, but it required a lot of force, and it's wide too, so it's not like this one is more narrow and long. It says wide, so it doesn't count. It has to be long and narrow. I should mention that. Long narrow flakes are what everybody wants. Heat treating allows you to accomplish that. Now, a real artifact made from this material is probably heat treated, but you can't tell if it is or not just by looking at it, except for the slight difference in smoothness and gloss, but it's just minimal. Okay, this is the same type as this. Yeah, the Cortex got darker, right? I believe it wasn't this dark before, although I could be wrong. It just looks darker. Let's see if this snaps. It naps. Yes, it does. Does it snap? Well, it could snap too. Let's try a risky flake. It's risky because it could dive in and snap in half. I seem to remember it being more difficult to nap than this. Yeah, it is kind of snappy, snap and halfy, but it's much easier to nap than it was in the raw state, I believe. If you have a hard time remembering this stuff, I'm in that same boat. I don't try to remember it anymore. I just test it. If it naps, it naps. If I nap it enough that I can remember because I've napped it many, many times, then I'll try to keep it in memory or write it down or do something so that I can tell other people about it. But usually I just nap it. If it naps, it naps. Alright, that one was good. Let's see. This is Medina County Chert. Let's see if I can run a long flake from somewhere where I won't snap it in half. Long and narrow, remember. Excuse me. Not like that. Although you can see a slight difference in color. Why do I mention that? Well, because sometimes you can tell if it's heat treat by the change in color. Now that was good. It wasn't long and narrow, but it was nice and flat. And it was kind of anti-turtlebackish, whereas I couldn't do that before. But as you can see, there's not much difference in the texture. Dull, dull, but easier to nap and slightly different color. But you'll find artifacts made of this stuff and you'll think it's made out of really nasty raw stuff, when it's actually heat treat. Heat treat doesn't have to be glossy. It was heated to 450 degrees and there's no gloss, just a little bit of sheen compared to before. Just a little bit, if any. Keep it in mind. I keep repeating that because you got to keep it in mind. Some people don't believe me when I tell them that the artifacts might be heat treated. They'll say, no, it looks just like the other stuff that I find. It's like the really cruddy stuff that I find. There's no gloss. There should be no difference. If there's no gloss, Gloss means heat treat, right? No. Alright, remember this one, you guys? Use guises. Measly Mises. I don't know. Let's see. Ooh, that did run. It ran, and it's starting to behave like a softer stone. See how it kind of digs in with a hinge instead of a step? That's the characteristic of better stone when it does that. It digs in and but it doesn't step, it hinges, which means it just scooped that out because it wanted to dive, but there was too much mass here, so it took the easiest way out and it just popped right back out. Higher quality stuff will do that. Lower quality stuff will just snap and have a step fracture. It won't try to come out, it'll just snap. Alright, so that one is easier, although it'll still be miserable to knap because it's got this chalky, nasty, concretey stuff in there. So I'm not going to mess with it right now. I'm not going to mess with the smaller flakes. I already messed with some of that. Yeah, I already messed with some of this. It's nice. Alright, this is different. Right? This one snapped in half on me. Let's see. Let's try to run a long flake. Well, I seem to remember heating this before and seeing it a little more glossy. So I might put this back in the heat treat at a higher temperature, maybe like 475. It still naps, but it has concrete in it, so I don't know. It's not going to be fun. It does nap a little bit easier though. Yeah, because I can take off some fairly good flakes, and it is fairly glossy in there. What else we got? Yeah, there's a little bit of sheen on that one. Can I remove the turtle back? That's the ultimate test. How easy can you remove a turtle back? The other test is how easy can you notch it? Those are the two tests on heat treat. The advantage of doing this, other than the long narrow flakes, it's the notching and the turtle back removal. Let's try the more difficult platform first. If that doesn't work, I'll do the easy one. This is more difficult because it's way above center line, but if I scoop it out enough with a hard enough hit, it might take off that turtle back. Let's see. Voila. Yeah, but you hit way above center line, and how did it do it? How did it do it? It's a mystery. It must be magic. Some kind of video editing magic. Right? No. No magic. Nope. No magic. Alright. These will be good. Trust me, these will be good. This is a finer grade of that Medina County Chert. It's a finer grade. This one naps actually pretty good in the raw state. But in the heat treated state, it's much better. This is, I don't know about this one. I don't know about this one. I don't even know if this will be even worth it to try to nap into something. It's just good for testing. That's it. It tested okay. It was in the corner, it didn't break up, okay? Here, this big fat one in the corner, did it break up? Let's see. I don't see no breakup. It didn't break up. So it violates all the rules, right? So it's in the corner and it's extremely thick. Supposedly, it's supposed to break all up. Thick rock doesn't heat well because it expands and contracts in different ways because it's so thick. You know, the outside will expand before the inside, so it has a tendency to what they call pot lid or fire pop. Yeah. I don't see no pot lids or fire pops. Why doesn't it do it? Because the advice you get on heat treat from people who think they know is often wrong. That's why you got to do it yourself. Because you could be heat treating the same stuff that I've got and have completely different results for whatever reason. I know one guy that, well, that's probably more than one person. I've heard this before more than once, that if you don't fill it with sand or cat litter or dirt to fill up these gaps, they don't have good heat treat. No. There's no good thermal conductivity. There's drafts also, or something. A draft will go through and it'll change the surface temperatures, and it'll fire pop them all. Somehow there's a draft. I don't know how. They must be doing it under hurricane conditions or something. They wait until the hurricane comes and then they heat treat everything, and they say if I don't put sand in it, it's gonna draft and it's gonna create fire pops. I'm exaggerating, but that's the only way it'll create fire pops is if there's a change in the air temperature because of some kind of air movement. If you don't have sand in it. Of course, if you do have sand in it, if it has a draft, the draft won't go in between the stones and, you know, it won't change the temperature. Or it won't go across the tops. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the sand is what helped it to heat treat. Excuse me. If you want to be safe, then yeah, you can put sand in it. Okay. I'm starting to lose my voice. The corners seem to be good. I put the cruddiest stuff in there just in case. Because yeah, I recognize that the corners get hot. Hotter than usual. But in this case, stuff that was in the corners is actually napping good, even though it was the cruddiest stuff I had. Now, am I actually going to use some of this? I don't know. I suppose I could if I find a nice clear piece, but I don't see any clear pieces. I just see concrete and misery. Is it still good for flint and steel? Let's see. Yes, it is. Still good for flint and steel. Now, why do I do it this way and not like this, with the flint going down like that? Because it's not as effective for me. I don't like doing it this way. I put the tinder on top. Just put a bunch there. Hold it down with my thumb. And keep doing this until I get one of them sparks to create an ember. And they're all set. I get more results if I do it this way. I can also do it that way, but when the last time I tried to make a fire with flint and steel, doing it this way was a pain in the butt. Okay. Corner pieces, they did not break up. They're good. This corner piece did not break up, still good. This corner piece, I haven't tested this stuff out. Let's see. Still good for flint and steel. Probably because it's so cruddy to begin with. Is there a difference? There's a definite difference in smoothness. See how smooth compared to how rough? See that? So it's more nappable. Easier to nap. Just because it's smooth, does it make it easier to nap? No. But it does give you a good indication while you're testing it. You won't know for sure until you actually make a point from it. Yeah, you actually got to make a point from it to be totally sure. But as far as I remember, this is a vast improvement. And it was in the corner. Okay. I know those guys that hate the corners in this. They're gonna switch the channel. Yeah, because this is not providing any confirmation bias. All right. Now, do I acknowledge that corners are dangerous to put stuff in? Oh, yes. I never put my best stuff in the corners unless it's by accident. And even when I do, a lot of times it doesn't matter. Because rock heats at a range. It's not a special one specific temperature. You know, some of this might be heated in the middle at a lower temperature because the heat didn't get to it fully. And the ones on the outside obviously would be heated to a different temperature. And when I start testing it all works okay. That means it works at a range. Now I've got different types mixed together, so it's chaos, right? If it was all one type, then I could tell for sure that it has a range by what happens in the corners compared to what happens in the middle. If the corners break up but the middle doesn't, then I've got to tweak the temperature and get closer to how it was in the middle. The middle, I guess, I don't know exactly, but I would estimate 50 degrees different than the corners. That could be up to 100 degrees different. I don't know. I suppose I could you know, punch a hole here in the rim, just like I punched a hole here for the thermometer. Punch a hole here in the rim and put a thermometer in there too. One here and one there. That way I can see if there's a difference. I might just do that to debunk the corner idea. It might be the same temperature. Because if you don't put sand in it, the heat has a chance to go everywhere. Because the currents, there are air currents, they're not drafts, they're just air currents that allow the heat to dissipate with help from the air around all the rocks. Okay? So even though that corner is hotter on the metal, the air has a chance to move around a little bit, and the air temperature may be the same in the middle as it is on the corner, just because it is allowed to move around. Now, does it move around with sand too? Yeah, sand is porous. But I don't think it has the same air movement characteristics. Now, was I just saying something about drafts earlier? Yeah, drafts are more drastic than this air circulation business. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's any different, but it is different. A draft is usually something that's colder and sudden. a sudden cold change in air. All right. I don't see any issues with fire pops. I see only good results. Although I can probably stick this back in and heat it to a higher level, just so some of this stuff can maybe react a little better. But I'm not too worried about this stuff. I'll probably just toss it out. This is the stuff I'm really worried about. So I did stick it in the middle. Although some of the flakes were in the corners. Let's see. These flakes were near the corners and there's no fire pops. The nice biface is still intact. I could try hitting it now, but I'm not really in the mood to do this. I'll do some sampling on it and I'll just offer these in the next auction. I'm not going to knap these big bifaces anymore for myself. I'm just going to knap smaller pieces for my videos and for myself, you know, stuff like this. I'll let you guys bid on these bigger pieces. Okay, I'm done with the large pieces. All right, for now anyway. I do say never, but I shouldn't say never. 3 inches. I'm done with the large pieces for now. This is 5. I consider a 5 inches a large piece. I'm probably not going to touch this one, and this one's, you know, maybe you can get a 6-inch blade out of it. Probably not. Maybe 5.5 inch if you're really good. Does this flint and steel? Does it flint and steel? Oh yes. So even if it's heat treated, this stuff's still good for flint and steel. This one is all by itself as a different type of stone. Let's see. Remember that in the beginning? I said that one was from a different batch. A different batch of spalling. Yeah. So let's see. Let's crack into it. Let's crack it open. Uh-oh. Incipient crack. Let's hit it again. See if it'll continue. Did it do it? Oh, it broke up. That's what I'm talking about when it breaks up. It's called crazing. And it doesn't need to, you know, explode to cause the crazing. Yeah, that's all. That's broken up on the inside. It looks pretty good on the outside. Now, some artifacts, I have chipped real artifacts and found this kind of stuff inside the real artifact, which means it may have been exposed to a forest fire, or accidentally thrown in the campfire, or accidentally cooked with meat, along with the meat. I have seen real artifacts, the little bifaces and preforms and broken points that have this on the inside of them. I have sampled some of my personal artifacts, and I have found this on the inside. All right, just so you know. Now, they may have knapped it into a preform and heat treated it, but didn't get back to chipping the preform and just kind of left it, right? And eventually we find it, and then we, once in a while, we'll test a preform. You know, we'll find it like this and we'll go, ooh, it may be a forest fire. Yeah, it might have been a forest fire, but it might have also been an attempt at heat treating, but they never got back to it. All right, so that's ruined. Does it still flint and steel? Does it? Let's see. Let's find out. Oh yes, still flints and steels. So it's not a total loss, right? If you get heat treat and somebody wants the waste for flint steel. There you go. Not total waste. But I throw it away anyway. Yep. Alright, so is that it? Is that it? I just spalled the nastiest stuff I had except for this stuff. This stuff was good. It's a nice bullseye type look. Right. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So I can offer some of this for sale, but some of the other stuff, I don't know. And do I want to reheat it? Probably not. You think it'll get softer? You might ask me, think it'll get even better? Maybe it needs 700 degrees. Well, if it needs 700 degrees, I can't do it. I don't have a kiln. Nope. I don't have a kiln. Not because I don't know where to get one. Because I can get one. I just don't want to spend the money on it right now. Even the used one is expensive these days. Everybody's doing these side hustles and, you know, using their kilns for pottery and heat treating stone. And, you know, custom items that require lots of heat to glaze the pottery or whatever. Yeah, this one looks nice. Very nice. Can I make an arrowhead out of this? Some of you guys, please make arrowheads out of the flakes. Please. See if you can make an arrowhead out of it. Yeah. I've got videos on it. Just type in a YouTube search with Jack Crafty flake arrowheads. Yeah. I think I got one or two. Alright. I will do some more flake arrowheads, don't worry. When I get around to it. Now, was that caused by heat? Can those be caused by heat? Because there was a crack in there, right? I just kind of tapped it to get it fully cracked. I think that was already in there. Yeah. Alright. The next batch I do will be a little less cruddy than this. I'm not going to use this stuff. I could, as a rock challenge, make an arrowhead out of some of that. But it would have to be something like this, already sort of flat. Yeah, something like that. Already sort of kind of flat. Okay. Alright, so I hope that helps. I will do more of these, as I said. I just wanted to get this one out of the way today. Because I got to empty this out and put another batch in. Alright? That's it. Okay, I thought that was it, but I just remembered that I was going to put in some large pieces for the next heat treat. Remember? Yep. That's what I'm going to do. This time I'm going to take it up to 500. I'm going to take these suckers up to 500. Oh yes. You might say, no, don't take it up to 500 because it's such a big, beautiful piece. I don't care. It's my rock. I can do what I want. And I want. Golly. Trying to do this while I look in the viewfinder. That's my excuse. Alright, is that it? I thought I had more. I can heat that by itself, right? But I won't. I'll look for other stuff and I'll put it in there before I heat treat this batch. Well, it's already dark out, so I can't see very well in my yard. So I'm going to wait till tomorrow to do it. I might feel better tomorrow too, so I'll be more able to pay attention. But yeah, I forgot to mention, I'm going to put that in, or I forgot to mention that I mentioned that I was going to put this in the new batch of heat treat. I'm going to take it up to 500 degrees, so I need to find other rocks that I'm pretty sure will survive the 500 degrees and stick them in there too, so I can have a full batch. All right, now that's it. Okay,